You're watching the Green Machine live. You're home for Irish football news and nostalgia. David Dunn here on his Todd, on his lonesome, just to sift through the embers of another international window. Hope you can hear me well because I literally just got off the train from London Bridge after flying in from Faro. And basically had to sort of grab everything out of the bag. Even had time to make a cup of coffee. And so there you go, guys. Another window gone. We're just going to have a little chat about that. Get your thoughts, most importantly. Of course, we are Irish football's most interactive podcast. So as per usual, I want to hear from you. Tell me what you think. What did you think of the window? What lies ahead? Who next? If Kenny isn't your guy. Did you watch the match last night? Did you travel? Are you back? How did you get on? I had a very I was on the same flight as Martin, who got a little bit starstruck, bless him, Martin did, because we were on the same flight as Shane Duffy and Adam Ida. Yeah, they're on a Ryanair flight, which kind of makes sense, actually, because we're going back to Stansted, which is probably the nearest one to them in Norfolk. But anyway, it's all a bit mad. But I suppose the best place to start, not going to be around too long tonight. I do have a pizza on the way, so I'm just saying. We're going to have a look, first of all, at the standings, just to see where we're at. We did have a look at this last night. As you can see there, France have qualified. The Dutch did win 1-0 last night. So France are on top with 18 points, have played 6 games. The Dutch are second, having played 6 with 12 points. Greece have played an extra game in the Dutch. They're level points with them on 12 in third place. And Ireland played 7. 6 points, we're in fourth, and of course Gibraltar haven't scored, haven't got a point, haven't got anything. So it's kind of funny when I went on the Facebook last night. You know, I thought I was doing all right, taking all the photographs with my gorgeous camera phone. I was sitting way away from everybody. Wasn't actually intentional. I just sort of, I was the first one there as I normally am, and I was, sort of keeping us updated with the scores, and and at the end of it, I said. 4-0 Ireland, professional job. Well, I swear to God, you'd swear I just shot Bambi in front of people. Like, Jesus Christ, lads, professional job. What match are you watching? Just all this sort of vitriol coming towards me. Okay, look. Professional job against a team mostly made up of part-timers, just about Kenny's level, all right. One goes, was there a match on tonight? We found our saviour. My local Desmond League side would beat Gibraltar. Just sort of, everyone having a little go at me. Look, at the end of the day, it was a professional job. It didn't blow the doors off of anything, and it wasn't brilliant. But that's a professional job, isn't it? You go there, you get it done, no fuss. And we weren't, we were never under any pressure, really. But some of the lads in our WhatsApp group, I'm sure they're watching anyway. You swear to it the way they were going on. Oh my, you swear they're watching Barcelona. They were like, this is the most fluid we've seen them. That was one. This is so much better than the last game. That was another. And I have to do. And I'm on my own here, so I get to say what I want. I have to put a bit of reality. See, that's my job on the podcast. I throw a little bit of a reality grenade in there. And I said, lads, it was against a team that were sitting in their 18-yard box. And I wasn't impressed. I thought we would still avoid of any ideas. We were bereft of any real movement, creativity in the final third, and I think that's been an issue. Stephen Kenny went on last night. He said about wingers. He finally gets to play with wingers. Quoting Shakespeare's Richard III. My kingdom for a horse, or in this case, a winger or two of them, and it still wasn't great, to be fair. When we got, we were doing more damage down the right hand side, but it's at the end of the day, it's Gibraltar, what wasn't fantastic. Apparently, we have another winger. He said we have another winger on the way. A championship winger. I've heard a little rumor that it's young. What's his name? I'll get him up here. You are. Casey McAteer, who is quite highly rated. This is the rumor mill now. This is not confirmed. He's 21-year-old. Let me get him up there. He plays for Leicester City at the moment, who are doing quite well. And yeah, he's quite an exciting young talent. 21, born in Northampton, and yeah, he's done okay. And hopefully, stats up now. I should have actually probably had this ready, but so far this season, he's made 7 appearances in the Championship. He's got 4 goals as well. So the lad's useful. If we could get him in, it'd be fantastic. I don't know too much about him, I will admit that. But that's a little rumor anyway. But there's nothing there. But that is who Stephen Kenny was chatting about there. Speaking of which, I mean, you know, with Stephen Kenny, I mean, we all saw the interview last night, and what do we make of him? Is he still a boy for you? Do we move on? And, you know, if we move on, who do we move on to? You know, I think one of the names, obviously, that's been bandied about is Roy Keane. And Martin O'Neill was on White and Jordan, as he tends to be on every Monday. I think it's every Monday it's on. And he was putting in a shout for Roy Keane. Would Roy Keane be your man? Would you want to see Roy Keane take over the Ireland job? I think Martin, he's desperate to see Roy Keane in charge. But, you know, could it work? It wouldn't be boring, would it, if you had Roy Keane in charge there? Imagine him. I mean, you know, just to play devil's advocate here, if Martin and I had a good few chats about this in Faro, if you had him in, let's say, the Alex Ferguson role. Now, I'm not trying to compare him to Alex Ferguson, right? I'm not trying to say he's as good as Alex Ferguson, right? But Alex Ferguson in his last few years as Ireland manager, if only, as Man United manager, was a figurehead. And he let the likes of Mike Phelan, Rennie Mulstein and all that, they did all the graft on the training pitch. But if you got somebody like Roy Keane to fulfill that role, you know, to give the speech, to basically, you know, get him going, and then you had like John O'Shea or an Anthony Barry type figure to do the proper groundwork, the coaching, you know, it could work. But could you honestly see Roy Keane? I mean, Roy Keane is probably the only assistant manager of any team that had his own press conference. You know, when he was in charge, when Martin O'Neill was in charge, you know, he had issues. He had the issue with Frank Gillespie, a former friend of his, who owned the Blackthorn pub in Boston, I believe, when he asked him to sign the book, the Secrets of the Blackthorn. I could be wrong, actually, the name of that pub. And, you know, he caused a problem there. He's falling out with players. I was actually reading his book, the second half, on the way over and back from Faro. And it's a very good book. It's very interesting, but I think it's fair to say that he doesn't have the personality for it. But, you know, Martin O'Neill was obviously, you know, and it's the old boys network, isn't it? You know, they all stick up for each other. And Keane's as guilty as that as anybody. And he was trying to say that he's as good as anyone out there. Do you agree with that? You're very quiet tonight. But do you agree, Roy Keane? Is he as good as anyone out there? Who would you want to see in charge? I mean, Martin O'Neill it was really funny. He did admit he's still got a rancor towards the Ireland job, and the whole Stephen Kenny situation. I think someone needs to explain to Martin O'Neill that wasn't Stephen Kenny who succeeded him. It was Mick McCarthy, but he doesn't seem to go after or mention anything about Mick McCarthy. Yet again, is that more old boys network? I mean, would you take Mick back? This fella here with his lovely tash. I mean, would he be the man? You know, I saw something quite good on Waterford Whispers, actually. You know, Waterford Whispers, obviously very tongue in cheek. saying Steve McKennie set for a new bumper 4-year deal after commanding win against Gibraltar. Unconfirmed. I wonder. And you can see that from Waterford Whispers News. I mean, comments just come in there saying if we lose to Netherlands, does it help us qualify? I don't actually know. I think it's very sort of, if I remember correctly, there is Rob at pel.ie. He was saying there, I mean, it's such a complicated situation here. But he learned that Poland can't actually finish above Albania because he put a graphic out on Twitter and says that so for an Ireland playoff, we would need Iceland to qualify with Portugal, and we would need Israel and Switzerland to finish top 2 of the group. So I don't actually think it makes much of a difference, to be honest with you. I mean, not that I think we'll beat. I mean, you remember last time we needed something from the Dutch. Italy 90, wasn't it? And both teams finished 1-1. They both go through, and you just had to go into lots. And the integrity was called into account. I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think there'd be any integrity called into question here. I think it would just happen. So yeah, and that's the thing. We don't really know. We won't know until the end of November, unfortunately. Jason Simmons, if Kenny was to go, what would be the chances of getting Anthony Barry back? Anthony Barry, I know he is Tuchel's assistant at Bayern Munich, Jason, and I think if you were to offer it to him as the main guy, I think it could work. But you have to give up his role at Bayern Munich. And he actually took charge of Bayern Munich because Tuchel got suspended. There's a shock. Tuchel is a bit of a live wire, isn't he? But yeah, I think personally that's where we're going to have to go. We're going to have to go with somebody who is pretty much unproven as the top guy. Like Lee Carsley, I know he's won the European Championships, but can he do it at a senior level? And also, someone like Anthony Barry, he's been an assistant wherever he's gone. But would he fancy a crack? And I said we'll have to have somebody in beside him to take over when he does, because we know, unless it's an Irish League of Ireland manager, and I dare say even an Irish legend, it's going to be a stepping stone to that person. We just have to accept it. Anyone that comes in from the League of Ireland, we had it with Brian Kerr, we had it with Stephen Kenny as well. This is not a stepping stone. This is the pinnacle of their career. This is the dream, to manage their country. And I get that, and it's lovely. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for both men. But we need to face the facts that we have to get somebody in who, this isn't a dream job, but it's a gateway into club management. And I know people aren't going to want to hear that, but I think that's just where we're at. I think just that's where the whole situation's at. Darragh Loughlin. There's a lot of talk in the media about the senior team and not about the causes behind the dearth of talent. Amy Dunphy and Johnny Giles alluded to on Dunphy's podcast, and that is the mismanagement of grassroots football in this country. So I don't know, actually, because, the under-17s are into the... where is that? The under-17s, I meant to share this, actually, but I was, on a plane traveling. More on that, actually, in a minute. They're through to the elite round in the UEFA European Championship qualifiers, and they got a 0-0 draw. You're getting these reports of the youth teams doing really, really well. I wouldn't be as up in it now as Nick. He is our man for the grassroots stuff, but I don't know. A lot of the schoolboy teams seem to be, St. Kevin's, who sometimes does be on this. They're excellent. Obviously, League of Ireland teams. There's no real academies other than Belize Shamrock Rovers. Yet again, I wouldn't be the man to talk about on this one. That would be a question for Nick, who should be back on Sunday, I hope. But I think, in all, Dara, I think football in Ireland is in a very bad state. We had the Euro 2028 and, Leah Varadkar coming out in April. That's fantastic. It's a great way to show our world-class facilities. And then literally about May, June, about 6 weeks later, you had the FAI saying, we need £1 billion to get our facilities up to scratch. But we're so far behind. We're so far behind. And, maybe a little bit, I said last week on the Greece review, and I was saying that, do Albania, do we have a better, do Albania have a better starting 11 than us? And, maybe I was a little bit arrogant on my behalf because I think we with Ireland, we put ourselves up there. It's an Irish thing, isn't it? Not that Ireland would know about that. But, you look at Luxembourg. Luxembourg in their group were third. They were actually very close. I mean, this is Luxembourg, and we were slagging off Luxembourg, and we were going mad when Luxembourg beat us. But Luxembourg are third in the group. And in fact, now they can't qualify. I don't think 1, 2, 3, 4. No, they can't qualify. I think the group is done actually. But in their game last night, if they had beaten Albania, I think it was. Sorry, Slovakia. They would have actually been 14. Yeah, they actually would have been. They would have finished second. I mean, they were right in that. That's a group of Portugal, Slovakia, Iceland, Bosnia, Liechtenstein. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, it's not done yet. It's still got 2 games left. But, there's Luxembourg, and we were kind of going mad about Luxembourg. And we are so far behind with the development of certain aspects of the game. I said £1 billion behind. And you had a team like Luxembourg who had a 10-year plan, a very wealthy country. And, they'd done the business over us at home. And, we did the business over them away from home. But, they had this plan to... So we can't even get the money for it. Other countries are moving ahead. And that's, that's very difficult to turn around, especially with this particular government in charge. And, Euro 2028, what we're going to get like 6.2 million quid, like is, you need £1 billion. But anyway, it was kind of funny actually when I posted that we were going to go live tonight. And I think a lot of people are kind of just tired of the international window a bit, bit of international window fatigue. I said heading back to Blighty, we're going to be live at about 8 o'clock to have our say about the international window. And the amount of people had a go at me. What do you mean Blighty? Heading back to Blighty? Is this about England, is it? I'm like, yeah, well, I live there. I live in London. And then another one called me Winston Churchill. Jesus. Sorry for living in London. Like, another comment coming in there. Cormac Murray, wouldn't it benefit the government to invest in football, build it from schools, pump in money, and get right people involved? The football team is doing well. Crowds money to the economy. Need a long-term plan. Cormac, you're absolutely spot on. And would it absolutely would. But I would argue that you'd have people in charge of the country who wouldn't have their finger on the pulse. Politicians, they rarely, I mean, you had the Bertie Hearns of this world back in, the late 90s, early 2000s. I know I'm going back here, children, sorry. And, he's a Man United fan. He even appeared as a pundit when Eamon Dunphy used to host the Premiership on a Saturday. That was our version of Match of the Day. Eamon Dunphy used to host it. It was all right, but he had on Taoiseach Bertie Hearn as a guest. And, he was sports mad. I don't think we've had anyone like that. And politicians tend to not really have a clue. Shane Ross, infamously, he turned around and he thought Eamon Dunphy was doing a fantastic job. He never heard a bad word against him when he went to League of Ireland matches, when he went to League of Ireland matches, allegedly. And, people have been protesting about Delaney for years, and he hadn't heard this somehow, because, we know why. And then all of a sudden, he gets caught out, and he goes the other way, and he wouldn't even speak to Noel Mooney, he wouldn't speak to Donald Conway, because he knew he'd been caught with his pants down. That's actually probably a really poor analogy, but yeah, he was caught. He was caught out, and he went the other way. So my point is, and I'm going through the weeds here, I do apologise, is that a lot of these politicians don't see it like that. And I think that's been an issue in Ireland, not just with football. Now, maybe you disagree, Cormac. Anyone else out there disagrees? But I think, in Ireland, we don't seem to invest in things very much. We're kind of very much stuck in our ways. I go back to the point of not having an airport, railway station, which absolutely is mind-boggling. 2023, we haven't even put a spade in the ground, shovel in the ground to quote Hicks and Gillette. That worked out. And yeah, it would. You're absolutely right. Football is the biggest sport in Ireland, and you may not like that. Not you, Cormac. Sure, you're a good man, but any JA people out there, it is the most played sport in the world. Jumpers for goalposts, on me head, back of the net, all that stuff. It's one of the easiest games to play. You just need the ball, and everyone plays. It's brilliant, and we could have some with an investment. We could have a fantastic League of Ireland. You could have stadiums with like 5 to 10,000 selling out. It'd be brilliant. It'd be fantastic for the country. A good League of Ireland where you could have players. You could have good professionals playing their football in this country, in Ireland. I'm not in Ireland. Playing their football in Ireland. The tax, the revenue that would bring in. It'd be brilliant. And then you could have those lads, if they're really, really tippy top players, then they go abroad and they would get good money for them as well. Not like £5.50 and a packet of crisps, like actual decent money for these lads, which you go, back into facilities and grow the game. But we just don't seem to have that. And, years and years and years with the Charlton era, we never built on that. We never even built on it with the McCarthy era. And it was a decent era, the first McCarthy era. And we never built the Aircon Park Stadium. Bertie Hearn stuck his oar in, and we never got Stadium Ireland built. It's just been kind of one missed opportunity after another. And could you imagine it? Like 100 million euros, and 100 million euros, like, was going to England from Ireland every year, pre-pandemic now. Imagine that money, or even a quarter of that, going into football in this country. I'm going off on what I know. Got a few more comments coming in there. Cormac Murray again. But if the politicians got the money and then experienced people involved, even go overseas for people, Germany, Holland. But if the politicians got the money and then experienced people involved, even go overseas for people. Yeah. Not sure if I understand the question. Sorry. But if the politicians got the money and then experienced people got involved, even go overseas. Sorry. Jet lagged. I'll be very. It's been a week, Cormac. Sorry, I see exactly what you're saying there. Politicians get the money, but then you get people in from abroad. Yeah, I mean, it worked with Rude Doctor, Nick, who is a big advocate of him. He's actually just texted me, just there, and he's asking me. He's not paying attention. He goes to me, "Are you actually? Are you on?" I was like, "I am on, Nick. Thanks for watching." But yeah, no, 100%. If you got people from abroad just to come in and kind of show how they do it, maybe in Scandinavia or as you say, Holland as well, and just kind of show us how it's done, just to sort of build that infrastructure. I think we need a lot of out of the box thinking. And I said, your grammar's not shambolic, Cormac. I'm away with the fairies, away with the pharaohs. Kieran Boyle, how you doing, Kieran? Over in sunny Florida. Technical ability of continental players is light years ahead of Irish players. Always has been. They play in better weather, on better surfaces, better coaches, better everything. We got success briefly from Route 1, which is effective and useful until everyone got wise to it. I think everyone gets wise. I was having a chat with my mate who's a Man City fan, and he was saying, like, they even got wise to Pep. And then he had to bring in the big man because he was playing, he's playing the tippy-tappy stuff, wasn't he, with the little lads. And then they would just, they would just bully them off the ball. So then you got the big man Haaland, and you change it up a little bit. I mean, we don't. It goes back to we don't have an identity in Ireland other than the long ball, and we never used to play the long ball until Jack came in, and it wasn't always long ball. It was quite. It was a bit more of a. I suppose a rougher version. I can't think of the word. Sorry. A more rustic version of what Liverpool play today, the pressing, hit it into the corner and make them play around the box. But you see, we don't have an identity, do we, in this country? Like the Dutch play their way in their league. The English suffered with that a little bit because they don't have an identity how they play in their league because they've all foreign managers and foreign players because it's more of a world league than the English Premier League. The French have their style. We don't have a style because all of our players play abroad or play in England. So it's very difficult. And maybe that's where it's kind of fallen down a little bit. And that's probably where, we look back at it now, Kieran, I suppose, but with Kenny, I mean, would have been perfect as the under-21s manager because he could have actually stamped that identity on the team and got him used to playing the football he wants to play. I mean, if you do, and you are right, by the way, we are technically so far behind. Even Gibraltar looked more comfortable on the ball at times, the way they were passing it, because that's the way they play. That's how they're taught on the continent. And it'd always be our downfall against continental, especially Eastern European sides, always disciplined, always technically superb. They just didn't have the individual talent or that, the little bit of somebody could just make that difference. We always seem to have that. We just find a way to hammer down the door. But it's so hard to turn around. You look at the French. I was watching the French live. Obviously, I've seen them twice this year. Even the one in Dublin where we supposedly were, going by the way some people went on, we played them off the park, apparently. They were so good on the ball, weren't they? They were just so quick. The weight of pass as well. And you can always tell that with a top player, can't you? It's the weight of pass. It's how quick they do it. And it's so good on its first touch and it's always forward. We've probably got one player that can do that. It was Robbie Brady. But of course, his Irish days are probably behind him. And probably Evan Ferguson. He did a little bit of that last night. It was a ball he played. I don't know if you guys noticed. He played. He shifted the play. It was just a way to pass. I thought that for me that is one of the hallmarks of a top player. But we don't seem to have that at the moment. It's a bit like England a few years ago. You see them play the one pass and he'd zip it. And then the second one, maybe not so much. And then the third, and then by the time they get to the fifth pass, like there's fucking things bobbling everywhere. And we're just very like that at the moment, I know you like the long ball, Kieran. Interesting nonsense. How you doing? Damien Duff is definitely an option for us. 100 caps. Played at the very top level. A winner. Doing great things with Shells. And a personality. He is. But do you not think, though, interesting nonsense? And I hear you, right? I don't think that's... I don't think it's a bad shout. Like, if he got the job... We were having a chat about this with some of the guys from the Risk London group. Actually, before I continue, here's some pictures there, actually. Here's the lads there. We're having this chat with these guys. There's Martin, his big head on him there. And there's another one there. And a fellow with a mighty fine beard, actually, on the right. Good bunch of lads there. Good bunch of lads. But we're saying this now. I wouldn't be mad at Damien Duff if he got it. I could see why. And if he had a bit of help, like, good coaching staff around him, I think it could work. He was well regarded at Celtic and he left to join Ireland. He's a passion for the game. Didn't he? He took over I think he was helped when he retired. He played for Shamrock Rovers and then he was actually with the Shamrock Rovers youth team, youth setup, wasn't he? And then even when he had the massive, fallout with the FAI, he went in and he did some voluntary work and then he got the Shells job. And he's done really well with Shells. Now, he is a personality. Now, the only thing with me, the thing is, right, with the FAI, and it was still Hill, wasn't he? He was part of the regime. Now, Mark Canham, he wasn't involved, our director of football, technically. Would he want to work with the FAI, first of all? I mean, he's not short of a few, Bob Duff. He's probably, he doesn't need the Shells gig. He's made his money. He had a very good career, won 2 Premier League titles and other trophies. So he doesn't need the money, so he does it for the passion. But he does look like a bit of a stress head on the touchline. Would it be too much for him? Or would he, with a bigger budget, I don't know the coaching setup with Shelburne. I wouldn't be the best person to ask about that. That would be Nick, actually, who has a mother-in-law over. Best luck with that one, Nick. You're grand. And basically, yeah, it's a case of, with a bigger team around them like you have with Ireland, would it be, would that alleviate more stress? But could he work with the FAI? And he does seem to be like, but they want to work with him because he is very combative. He's a bit like Roy Keane, actually. I never thought, when I saw Duff as a player, I never thought he'd be like that as a manager. He always seemed to be quite quiet. When you see the Rising Suns DVD and you're looking at him and going, is he awake? And you see him now as a manager and he's just like, this rage has just come out of nowhere. I mean, I like it, but I think he'd be a good shout. It wouldn't be a bad shout, but I'd just be worried. Would it be too much for him? Because, I mean, look at him at Shelbourne. He is an absolute stress out of Shelbourne, but I do like him. Kieran Boyle, again, FAI missed a huge opportunity in the 90s to build on the success of the international team. Who would have thought the rugby team, who were dire in the 90s, very true, are bigger draw and success than the national team. It all goes back to investment outside Dublin to GAAs. Again, can't compete with that when it comes to money. You're very true there. I remember my brother saying back to me, my brother lives in the Midlands, my brother in Ireland, and he had his kids playing the GAA. I thought, what are you doing? Fucking traitor. And he goes, GAA are the best crash in the world. Free crash. Take your kids there, they love it, they run around, they expanding all this energy and they spend it all, and he gets a decent night's sleep at the end of the day. It was completely different with the football around his area. And they have it sewn up for the moment. But that's because there's no viable option. And this is where government funding needs to come in. And yeah, 100% though, Kieran. We didn't build on the success of the 90s, the Charlton era. Lansdowne Road was basically a free gift by the government to the IRFU. And Irish rugby was in a terrible state in the 90s. And, vision, discipline, patience, investment, wise investment as well. And look what they've done. World number one team in the world. Okay, haven't made it past the quarterfinals, but we've been a top team for a number of years, and the Irish team just seems to be going backwards now. Now there's talk of us being minnows. Your man Peter Collins. God, you remember him from the rock and roll? Peter Collins from the Beatbox, and he asked the question, didn't he, of Shay Given? Are we in the minnows now? Now we're talking about us being a minnows. Remember years ago we were talking about should the minnows be in a special competition and then come in with the big boys. And now we're not a minnow, by the way, but now all of a sudden we're having that conversation. It's on the periphery now. That's how far we've fallen. And yeah, we haven't built on anything. We never built on the McCarthy year. We should have built Aircon Park, in my opinion. Now they're saddled with a 43 down from 43 million euro debt. The government could just write a check and just get rid of that, and then the FAI could get all that money, that turnover, and they do quite well. There's a massive turnover. The FAI makes money. Please don't think they don't. They do make money, but because they're saddled with that debt that John Delaney, when he made the decision to go with to build a new Lansdowne, and if you read the Champagne Football, they had it built Aircon Park that would have been built in the late 90s. We'd be 20 years into the future without a debt, but unfortunately, that's just where they are. Sorry, going off on a bit of a tangent there. Dennis Grenell, how you doing, Dennis? Kenny has ruined Irish football over the last few years. Kenny's position of Ireland manager is the equivalent of what would happen if you were to promote a Montessori teacher into the role of a lecturer in Trinity College. That's quite elegant, Dennis. Never heard it described in such a beautiful way. It's an absolute shambles. Limited knowledge and expertise is always going to turn out to be an absolute disaster, like it is now. Very sad times and dark days. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's ruined Irish football as such. I mean, Richard Dunn did come out, didn't he? And he said he said on television that he tried to reinvent Irish football, and it didn't need reinventing; it just needed taken care of. That's, in my opinion, is complete bollocks. It did need reinventing. It not even it needed reinventing. Now I think the plan is solid. Obviously, it's turned out sadly. And I really wanted to work for Stephen Kenny. And when he does go, we do a piece on him of what went wrong. I will be absolutely crucified for supporting him. And I do not regret supporting him, by the way. I thought it was looking good for a bit there, and then it's sort of just November. I can't get past November. last year, and it all kind of went tits up from there. But look, the plan is solid. But yeah, it turns out Stephen Kenny just wasn't the right person for it. I think it is a case of he cannot see the wood from the trees. He lost focused. I've always listened to top managers like your Pep Guardiola. Not trying to compare to Pep Guardiola, by the way. They have their principles. They have their way they want to play, and they will never betray those principles unless they decide to make that change. As I said with Pep, he changed things up at Man City, but when he had Joe Hart, and people say, you can't get rid of Joe Hart. He's a great shot stopper. Yeah, but I need a ball player. Didn't quite work with the first guy, but then he got Edison in. Fantastic. And now everyone does it. You know, he was brought in to deliver a vision, 4-3-3. And we haven't played 4-3-3 for a number of years until obviously the last 2 games. And it looked better, by the way, 4-3-3, to be fair. Although it was against Gibraltar last night. And he was brought in to deliver that vision, and he went back on himself. He brought in younger players, but then he tried to batter in older players to the detriment of the team, in my opinion. And I think when you start doing that, when you start kind of going back on yourself a little bit and you go around in circles, you lose focus of what you're brought in to do. You tend not to see the wood from the trees, and I think that's what's happened with him. And I'm not defending him, by the way, but I think that's just what's happened. Interesting nonsense. Time for us to play a bit more pragmatically. Not all a long ball, but occasional long passes, mix it up, and shift play at times. Too much short passing at the moment, which isn't hurting teams. See, that's the thing. Now, there's a balance between throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks, on like what we had on a Martin O'Neill. And we did. That's what he did. There was no plan. Martin O'Neill was just get it up long, see what happens. Jack was a little cuter than that. And I know at times if it doesn't work out, it could look quite bad. But Jack will let you play the football, and he had the players to let you play the football. And you could argue maybe Martin O'Neill didn't have quite the team that Jack did, obviously. But he had players who could play. He had Wes Hoolahan was just ostracized from the squad by him and Trapattoni, so as Andy Reid before that. But it doesn't always have to be tippy tappy for the sake of it. If you need to hold on to possession and take the sting out of the game, that's part of football as well. That's what the Italians did. That's what the Germans did. That's what Liverpool used to do back in the 70s. Just tap it around. But then if you're going for a goal and you're 2-1 down at home and your job is on the line, like against the Dutch, and you're telling Shane Duffy not to go forward, it's madness. It's absolutely madness. If the long ball is on, it's on. And if you play a long pass and it's a pass, it's a completed pass, it's a good pass, it's good football. Doesn't always have to be tippy tappy. If you want, if you got to play it down the wing like we should have done, because we have the big fella in the box, Evan Ferguson said he has to come deep. He's a forward, like he's a striker. He shouldn't have to come deep as an attacking midfielder. We're not getting the service to him because we're not getting the crosses in the box. It's absolutely mental. But that would have worked against Gibraltar. Our first 2 goals came from crosses into the box. We just stopped doing it. There was no plan. My opinion, anyway. Banging on a bit. Chris Lacey, how you doing, Chris? Lots of secondary schools outside of our main cities remain hostile to the game, including my own former one. Even basketball is included. Go figure. In my final year, one of the lads had signed for Notts Forest, and his name wasn't even mentioned at the end of year school ceremony. 20 years on from that, little has changed. The world's most popular sport should be available to every student to play in the country. I agree. The health benefits, the mental health benefits. I used to love playing football as a kid. I wasn't any good at it, but I used to love playing it because it's football. You go out and watch Ireland play, and good result, bad result, you'd be out playing. I remember playing when we drew with Liechtenstein 0-0. Went over to the park, which is now a housing estate. Thank you, Dublin Council, and went out and played football afterwards and enjoyed it. It's a great game. You can play it anywhere practically, and yeah, it should be available. There is snobbery. 100% at a certain parts of official Ireland who do look down. If you're not a GAA person, if you don't speak the language, you don't speak Oscuelga, they kind of look down. There is that sort of thing there, and you do look at football as the nose down. But to be fair, the FAI over the years haven't helped themselves. The RFU got their act together, and he became more professional. And yet again, Nick is the man for that to explain what happened there with them. He's more of he's a rugby man. But yeah, just with the FEI, never seemed to be any vision until now. And when he went, people were saying, "Oh, that's embarrassing going to the government with a figure of 1 billion." I think it was the right thing to do. You had to quantify it. You had to quantify it and say, "Look, we need £1 billion." I think we're right to do it. Well, they won't get anywhere near that, but yeah, I agree with you there. Going off on a tangent again. There was that. I remember my old school, actually. It's gone back 30 years ago, and this is Dublin in the 80s and 90s, and you could only play Gaelic football. You're only allowed to play Gaelic football, and you got there was just prizes. Each year had a team in the school. You could only play GA. That was my brother. He was 4 years older, and then when I got in, you were finally allowed to play proper football. And I was just mental. But yeah, the fact it's still going on is crazy. Anyway, we'll move it on. Cormac Murray. Well, Kenny has very good ideas. He gave a lot of young guys their debuts, but national team manager hasn't enough time over the term to change style or insist on beautiful style. Results, unfortunately, have to come at least by second qualifying campaign. The style of play stuff, surely, is a cultural thing over years from school. That's fair. You only get them for a few days, don't you? You don't get to actually... It's not like a Liverpool where, Klopp got them in for double sessions to get them up to scratch because they just weren't good enough last season, and we talk about all the different types of, not even just the elite managers, just any manager, you can coach a team. You got them day in, day out, and it's very difficult to do that. And as I said, we don't have that identity. We don't have that cultural identity of how we play. How does Ireland play football? Give it a lash, Jack. That's the only thing you can identify us with. We're not typically a ball-playing team. The last time we played decent football and winning football, that was actually easy to watch, was under Mick McCarthy, the first time round, and he had it right. We would, you go back and watch the World Cup. I remember I was blown away. I was rewatching 2002, and this Shay Given throwing the ball out to Steve Finnan, rolling it out and playing it out from the back. It didn't look as sexy because we were quite a physical side, and we would go long at times. And the goal that we got Robbie Keane, the flick on from, it was a long ball, wasn't from Steve Finnan. The flick on by sometimes that works. We played him off the park, but we couldn't get the result. Boom. But yeah, and the thing is with Kenny, it looked like at the end of the World Cup campaign, it was actually starting to click. I did say it at the time, if we start off poorly, I don't care as long as we finish strongly, and we did, and we thought, oh, here we go, and then just went to shit after that, really. How you doing, Glenn? Glenn Forbes. Hey, Dave. Thanks for your hard work again and making the time to do this. Where I agree, I'd love to see investment from the government. I can appreciate reluctance when those funds have previously been misused. John Delaney did a lot of damage there, and I'm still not convinced the FEI could be trusted to invest it the way it should. You should strive to be a self-sustaining business model for League of Ireland and senior teams. I don't know what the path is for that. It's only my opinion. It does go off after that, Glenn. Sorry. But thank you, by the way. Yeah, I mean, knackered. But this is why we do it. We do it for the love of the game, for the love of Irish football, Irish international football. But yeah, it is tiring, but it is brilliant. On your point, yeah, I do get that. What we have to remember, any funds that were given, because I reread for about the third or fourth time Champagne Football, and Dunphy, according to the book, basically is Delaney. Sorry, Dunphy, if you're watching, Amy Dunphy. Delaney, he obviously, and those under him, ran it into the ground. But any funds that were given to him by the government were not found to be misused in terms of they went into projects they were supposed to go into. So that is something, I guess. But I do take your point. Confidence in the FEI is at an all-time low. The guy, I think it was Gary Cook, was it? He was a chart accountant, and he went in to sort out to go under the bonnet. I could be getting the name wrong, mixed up. And like basic accountancy was not followed, which is a spread. We're talking a spreadsheet and a calculator here. Basic accountancy, things like that. Now it's not going to happen again. And there has to be a point as well, Glenn, where you have to move on, because you can't keep punishing the FAI. well, John Delaney back in blah, 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 or in, 1980, whatever. There is a cut-off point. We have to trust them again because whether we like it or not, the FAI do run football in the Republic of Ireland. And they are the ones that are responsible for administering it. Now, they have shown prudence and they have got the debt down, to be fair, from 65 million to 43 million. So it is run a hell of a lot better than it was. They are making, it's not perfect. It's not perfect at all, but they are making strides in the right direction. And the government have to go, okay, we got to give you another chance here. Because otherwise, just be going around in circles. And Glenn, you say again, I can't see Duffer taking it after he left his role with Kenny. I don't think that relationship has been repaired. Yeah, I think there's a lot more. I tell you what, there'll be some interesting books written about this period. I'd love to read that. Garrett Massey, how you doing, Garrett? This shite is saying we're not technically gifted enough as bollocks. Sure, look at Wales. They ain't world beaters, but they found a way to be on the brink of qualification. Probably won't in the end, but they've given themselves a chance. Agreeably, we don't have the players, but play to our strengths, which is long ball. Benny and Ferguson are able to fear up possible mistakes by defenders. Not good on the eye, but it's the only way we can progress rather than fighting with Gibraltar for the win. Well, I mean, it's not that we're not. Look, any manager can set a team up, right? Can set up professional players. And Nick and I were talking about this in Dublin the other day, the Greece game. Any manager can set a team up to pass it. And the way football is now, it tends to be a lot more of a counter-attacking game. And, Greece hit you on the counter. And you saw when they were 2-0 up, they sat back. And, anyone could just pass it. It's just basic, isn't it? It's just pass, the triangle. Just, you get the ball, guy goes there, you pass it to him. That's just basic football, pass and move. Clough did it. Liverpool did it for years. Ferguson did it. It's just very, very basic football. But it's when it's making count in the final third, when you have a team that's sitting inside our 18-yard box is trying to break them down. And sometimes it is passy, ball over the top, to quote Paul Merson. It just depends. It's having the vision, it's having the players, the vision to be able to spot these openings. I know I sound like a madman, but I think a mixture, to be honest with you. It doesn't always have to be tippy-tappy. I think a mixture is good. If the long ball's on, go for it. I did see that. There was one yesterday where there was a ball on over the top. Doherty made a run and he was open and Cullen was on the ball. I was like, nope. And he just played it safe to the guy next to him. And, Doherty he was right the way through in the first. Nobody was picking him up in the first half. And to me, I'm thinking, the long ball's on. Just play it. Just think it over the top and see what happens. Anyway, thanks for commenting, though, Gareth. Kieran Boyle again. Duff would be a big upgrade, but again, it comes down to what coaches are around you. How many coaches did Kenny go through? It's telling that not many stuck around long enough, except Andrews. See, I don't know if that's down to the manager, though, Kieran, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a bus up there with Duff. And we don't know if that was because of Alan Kelly. I'm not too sure what happened there. And it was just, he just wasn't happy with the FEI over the video. Don't really know what went on. Gareth Barry, Anthony Barry, he got an option to work with the number one team in the world, Belgium. Not the best team, just ranked number one. And to go to a World Cup. You can't really blame the manager on that. And John Eustace, went to QPR. Sorry, he was at QPR and then he was offered the role. He said, no, I'm going to stick with Ireland because he knew QPR was a bit of a basket case. Sorry, Declan, if you're watching. And then he went to Birmingham. He left Ireland for Birmingham. He did a great job and then got fired with the team in sixth. So, can you blame the manager or not? I don't think you can. Donald, how you doing, Donald, on YouTube? Are players best suited to playing with wing backs, do you think? I think most of our options at fullback, wingback aren't strong enough defensively. Anthony Barry likes wingbacks. What about Carsley? Not totally sure on what Carsley likes. I know with Carsley, I'm not sure if he plays the wingbacks, but he likes. I think he played with a front six, I believe, in the Euros. 6 attacking players. 4-3-3 with 6. I could be wrong now. Yet again, Nick would be more technical than I would, but I know he played with 6 attackers. up front. He likes a good attacking style of football. But now, to be fair with the England under-21s, they have phenomenal talents coming through. He wouldn't be able to do that with Ireland, let's be honest. And no, we see. Here's the thing, right? And this is what annoyed me with Kenny. But he loves wingers, right? He always plays at wingers. We know that. That's a trademark of Stephen Kenny. But he was trying so desperately to play this system. I think it was after the England mauling in Wembley. That was the last time we played 4-3-3 or start with a 4-3-3 until against Greece, when we started against Greece the other night. And he's looked at it and gone, I had to play wing backs. But we had massive injury problems. Coleman out. I think Doherty was out. Doherty was suspended. So he's put, you look at the players he's put in there, he's put James McLean out. That actually worked. And I think a young James McLean would have worked in his late 20s. I think he would have been a very good wing back. I thought his crossing, that seemed to be a thing that Kenny worked on him with. His crossing, beautiful delivery from McLean. I know he's technically not very proficient, but his crossing was phenomenal. He worked as a left wing back, and Doherty's a right wing back, and he's obviously just at that stage now where he's not going to bomb on. He's going to play it safe and tuck in. Now, he made a run against Gibraltar last night. I was talking, but that's against Gibraltar. But you look at Doherty, he's done nothing of any substance against any team of any substance. And that's the real making of a player, isn't it? And the real showing of a player. And it doesn't, he can't play that system. Not against a top team. Coleman, still, he's 34. And he's got a bad injury. Still very good, can do a job as a fullback against certain opposition, or as a wing back. But yet again, he's 34. Then you had Festi Abasela. He's like a right midfielder and a right back. So, combine the two, you get a right wing back. And he won't play him. But yet he'll put Callum O'Dowda in as a wing back. And he's not a wing back. And, all joking aside about Callum O'Dowda not having a go at him, he's not a wing back. And yet you're trying to play this guy as a wing back because you want to play wing backs, but you don't have wing backs. So that's where a manager would turn around and go, "No, do you know I don't have wing backs to play this style, so I'm gonna eat what's on my plate." And he hasn't done that, and he hasn't been pragmatic enough. And yeah, I think it's mental trying to play a system of fullback with wing backs when you don't have wing backs, so you have one wing back who's fit. And that was the problem, wasn't it, with a plan B? He had Ryan Manning, who's a wing back, but he's not very fast, Manning. He's probably more of for me anyway, but he's more of a traditional left back. And we looked more balanced with him on the left as a left back. I think 4-3-3 is probably our best system, which is the system we're supposed to be playing at all levels, by the way. That was recommended through the different levels. Anyway, yet again, I am rambling. Graham, okay, can you name 5 managers? I think the job is very attractive. Can I name 5 managers who might want the job? Well, I think Roy Keane would take it because he hasn't managed for 11 years. I'm not saying I want him to take it. I'll tell you what, though, if Roy Keane got it, Graham, that would be interesting. If he box office, I'm not sure about results. We'd win a first match, maybe first couple of matches, and it look brilliant, and then it'll all go to... sorry, just reading the comment there. First couple of matches would be fantastic, but then it sort of fall apart after that. Probably, for me anyway, it'd be Carsley, maybe John O'Shea, Duff, Anthony Barry, and just off the top of my head, the lad, is it McKenna? Is it at Ipswich? He's done very well there. Ipswich manager, what's his name? But they play good style of football over there, and they're in the championship. That's literally just off the top of my head. I think the Irish job is it Kieran McKenna? Yes, Kieran McKenna. The Irish job is always attractive. Look, the team isn't that bad, although a bit baffling. You had £43 million of central defence sitting on a central defender sitting on the bench last night. Nathan Collins and Amabamidele. Don't know what's got. If anyone out there, by the way, knows what Amabamidele what the issue is there, I'd love to know, because he hasn't played a game for Nottingham Forest. He's in the squads. He was training. He was doing the warm down. He looked okay. He looks like a player. £20 million. Nathan Collins, 23, £22 million. So, decent goalkeepers. All right midfield. You got Evan Ferguson. This seems like a spine. Jason Knight is the standout midfielder. And there's a decent spine, and you got Andy Moran coming through. So it's not bad. It's not a terrible job. And people say we don't have the players. No, I think I agree with you there. I think it's a very, very attractive job. Kevin McGuinness, how you doing, Kevin? Hi, David. When you say stick with the plan, what exactly do you mean? Always passing out? I don't think it suits the majority of the players. What's wrong with a mix of passing when it's on, long balls, set pieces, whole of play? Nothing. Sorry, when I say about, I've actually, to be fair, now you did send. Well, no, I have been saying that like good for, if the long ball's on, the pass is on, play the ball. If you want to hold on to possession and the pass isn't on, square it. If you can't move it forward, if you can't play the triangle, just square it, hold on to possession until it opens up, and then play it. I know I sound like an absolute lunatic there, since the only coaching I've ever done is on LMA Manager. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be just passy, tippy tappy, just for the sake of it. And teams now tend to be more counterattacking, and they'll sit back and they'll go, "Yeah, you do that," and then you'll have a player, he'll fumble on the ball, boom, will pounce, and be like piranhas, and then all of a sudden they're away. That's what Greece did to us, and did it really well, by the way. Gus Poyet, actually, he's another one. He wants the. He said he'd be happy to take the Ireland job, probably on a lot more money as well. But going back there, Kevin, the plan for me, what I mean by stick to the plan is don't go with a Chris Hughton or with a Roy Keane, or even though that would be funny, or go with a Sam Allardyce or anything like that. Like the Martin O'Neills, and sort of like, look, we're shit, so I'm going to come in here, I'm going to fix it for you. We're going to put 10 men behind the ball. Going to be boring to watch. Really just dreadful. People go on about Martin. The last year, the Martin O'Neill era was just so bad in 2018. I don't want that. I want us to play good football, but as I said, it can be a mixture. And yes, set pieces. Anthony Barry was the man for that. We've never recovered from Anthony Barry since he's left, to be honest with you. And we were so tight with him. The set piece was very, very good, so organised, and we just haven't replaced him, to be fair, to quality. And John Eustace wasn't really around, I don't think, long enough, to be fair. But yeah, that's the plan for me. Just bring the young lads through, because the last two managers we had, last three managers, never really looked after the young players. To be fair to Mick, his mantra was get us into the Euros, but O'Neill before that, and Trapattoni, they were just all about results, but they didn't care about the development of the players and coming through in the pathways from the under-21s. So that's what I mean by the plan. Just don't go back to the rockstar manager, rockstar way. Just not that they could afford it if they wanted to, but just get a good coaching side in there. Maybe make us a little bit more. We're probably too naive. Make us a bit more streetwise, bit more pragmatic. But we can still play some good football, I think. And I think this team can play some good football with a bit of better coaching, a little bit more, not naivety, but a little more cynicism in the team, a bit more cynical, make it a bit more streetwise. I reckon this team could do well. I think there's a nucleus of a very good side. I think there's a spine of a very good team. That's my opinion. David Levy. How you doing, David? We played good football for the first five minutes against Sweden in Euro 2016. It wasn't all bad under O'Neill. Yeah, but that's the problem, isn't it? First 45 minutes, and then he sort of bottled it against, against Belgium. He kind of panicked a bit, and it was all very, very bad. What was the thing with O'Neill? Look, it wasn't always bad with O'Neill. I mean, look, the 1-0 in Austria, the 1-0 in Wales, it was fantastic. But a lot of it was just, you have to have a... let's have it right. I mean, the last year was absolutely poison. It was dreadful. You had the fallout with all the players. You had Cyrus Christie being told an hour before kickoff, oh, by the way, Mr. Right back or full back, you haven't played as a centre midfielder since you were 12. You're going to play centre midfield tonight. So you've dropped him in the deep end because he hadn't got a clue what he was doing. Not the player's fault, by the way, because when you play in channels, as a fullback or as a winger, you play in channels, don't you? When you're in the middle, a central midfielder is what is the engine room of the team. You've dropped him in it, and you've also managed to ostracize your actual midfielders, because apparently they were really annoyed about him. The guys that were in the midfield at that time were going, "Why are you playing so you mean to tell me that you're going to play a fullback over me?" What does that tell the actual centre midfielders that he had? It was just ridiculous in the last few months. But look, it wasn't all bad. I think the Amy Duffy called a 0-0 draw in Poland the best away performance ever by an Ireland team. A little bit hyperbolic. Glenn Forbes, I actually do agree, Dave, listening to you. If the government just wrote a check to cover the debt so the FAI could get to their feet, that would be a huge help. But it's up to the FAI to manage the funds responsibly. 100%. 100%. And I do think we have people there that will actually make sure that happens. Graham again. The Poyet Gary Dicker management ticket is very interesting. Strongness to Brighton. Oh, Gary Dicker, don't mention him. Poyet wouldn't be too bad, I mean, I think Poyet's a bit of a bowsy. And I'll go on. I'll go. I don't mean this in a bad way. He's a bit of a bollocks, actually, as we say in Ireland. But you kind of need that a bit. Like he would make Ireland quite. I'm kind of going back to myself here a little bit, but I wouldn't be totally against Gus Poyet, because I think if he got us playing a good counter-attacking style, like Greece, I wouldn't be against that either. The press, the gang press, that kind of football that sort of seems to be like the modern style. What obviously a little bit more refined, but the dark arts and the streetwise. I think that'd be I think that's what we need. We're too nice. Someone said it last night on the pod, but we're too nice. We are too nice on and off the pitch. I mean, Stephen Kenny, right, turned around, and there was a Gibraltar coach, and he was constantly going at the referee, wanting everything. Stephen Kenny goes, "Can you speak to him? Like, he's going for everything. Like, he's asking for everything." Thinking, you should be doing that, Stephen. You should be having a go. You should be a pain in the arse. He's too nice. Nice guys rarely win anything, especially in football. You should be fucking in. I don't think, does he swear? Has Stephen Kenny ever cursed? Oh, he's a lovely man, but you need someone a little bit in there. And Gus Poyet, he's a bollocks. He's a good bollocks. Cormac Murray, if the government has the will to get involved, get authors in annually, keep things in order, monitor the finances. Well, Sport Ireland's supposed to do that, to be fair. Get business people involved along with football people. Mix of knowledge / brains. Politicians have no problem jumping on bandwagon and be qualified for major tournaments. That's it. Look, it's Ireland, isn't it? The governance has been quite... and actually, just a little bit of breaking news. Breen, if you're watching. Danny McDonald's just come out on Twitter a few minutes ago that Leicester winger Casey McAteer is the championship player in process of committing his international future to Ireland. So there we go. We said it here first. So Casey McAteer is the guy that they're after, and he's got some promising stats there. So there you go. That's good news. But just going back to the Cormac, I mean, when you do go back and read Champagne Football, if you haven't, I do suggest you read it. It wasn't. A lot of things went wrong there. In Ireland, I don't think governance is a strong point in Ireland. In terms of administration, it's just not a strong point, is it? And financial regulation. That's what auditors failed horribly. I think there's actually there was questions asked of those guys as well. Why didn't you spot this? Why didn't you? That's your job. You're supposed to audit the accounts, and they didn't do. And they were the FAI were paying them to do this. So it was a failing on many levels. I just don't think it would happen this time around. I hope. Cormac Murray again. Annie Towns is saying Roy Keane should get the job. It's madness. Well, see, this is the football thing, isn't it? My mate, he'd be great. I remember Green and Red. Do you remember that documentary 2 years ago? And one fella saying Sammy McElroy would be perfect to take over from Alex Ferguson because he knows the club inside out. Utter bollocks. Nothing against Sammy McElroy now, but Greg Foley. Do we think Roy would take the job, or is life just too good for him at the moment? I'd love to see him get it. Not sure what we get, but it'd be box office, that's for sure. Yeah, I think he would. But just no. I mean, it'll be entertaining, but no, I think he would take it. But he'd be silly to take it because he's got a great gig going there. was it the overlap and all these things he does with Micah Richards, his new best mate, you should definitely stay where he's at. Glenn Forbes, fuck it, give it to Roy Keane. At least we box office. Gary Neville, Micah Richards can come on as assistants. Micah and Roy can record themselves driving through Darndale and see what happens. Oh, Jesus. Did that once before. And literally, my missus at the time had to speed through because a car came and missed our car, which would have creamed me, and not the way I like to be creamed, because it was a car chase. And just missed our car and hit the car behind us. But good old Darndale. Cormac Murray, isn't the key really that a manager has to be a system based on players available and be flexible, willing to change depending on opposition, go along when needed, some crosses, possession, take the sting out of it, pace to play, etc. It doesn't have to be one-way play. 100%, Cormac. It doesn't. There's more than one way to skin a cat. We just need to get away from the whole, Trapattoni, or not go back to that. And now here's my team a week in advance because we know what we're going to do. 4-4-2, keep it tight and, try and get something. Or Mick McCarthy in the burst football that we played, give it to Ditzy and hold up and we'll try and do something with it. Which, to be fair, didn't do terribly, but, it wasn't great either. And obviously Martin O'Neill, see what happens. Cyrus Christie in midfield, that kind of thing. It seems we've gone to an extreme without going in the middle somewhere and try to find a happy medium. Graham, in the case of Roy, I think the sponsorship issue will be reversed. Get backroom camera, no more debt. That's true. I would pay for that. I absolutely would be. And Graham, I'm going to give you the final word. If Roy got it bye debt, sell the rights to Sky, boom, debt gone. I agree there. Lads, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. I think we're all a little bit exhausted from the window. I know I am. 2 days away. I've got to put a big wash on. I've got a Papa John's pizza on its way to me. Hopefully don't make it bollocks out like they did last time. But listen, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. We'll be back on Sunday at around 9:45. Be interesting to see now the Casey McAteer, which has just been announced. He is the player that is set to change over from England to the Republic of Ireland. And actually, judging by his stats, he looks like a player, but time will tell. Lads, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support all throughout the window. Fantastic. And it was lovely meeting some of you guys actually in Faro. It was brilliant, actually. And thank you very much. You're all too kind. And really enjoyed it. Had a good trip with Martin. I wonder if his wife's let him back in the house actually, but no. It's been wonderful. Really, like, support has been fantastic. Thank you so much. We do this because we try. We do it because we love it. We love the Irish team. We love you guys. We love try to give you guys a voice, and I think we're very good at that. We are Irish football's most interactive podcast. But you can follow us on Facebook. You can give us a cheeky subscribe in the old YouTube channel. We are trying to get that going. Instagram and Twitter, and we will be back on the weekend. Per usual. Hopefully I'll have the two lads with me. I won't be going solo. Leave me out on my own here. I can't be trusted on my own, you see. And we'll see you then. But anyway, listen, thank you. Good night. And God bless. And come on, you boys in green.